So I think it's fair to say that Resident Evil has a fairly strong cast of characters. I think that's a majority reason why the series has been as successful as it has been, is because the characters have been so popular. A lot of them, like Chris or Leon, have been some of the most demanded characters to be seen in future games, and we have seen some of them in future games like Resident Evil 7 in the DLCs or Resident Evil 8, again in the main game and DLC. However, something that I've noticed with those two games in particular is that the main character in that game, Ethan Winters, has been seen as fairly boring or stale. I've seen this take a lot in the community that Ethan is just not a good character, and no one seems to really be able to explain why. I know there's some who don't like his voice acting, that in 7 he kind of just doesn't react to whatever's happening to him, and that's a fair criticism if you think that he doesn't do a good enough job. But the thing with that criticism, the problem with that criticism in particular, is actually explained in the lore of both games actually. So I do think that while it is fair to say some of his lines aren't exactly, top notch or pronounced as greatly as they could be, this isn't a criticism that should just be tied to him specifically. And you can look at many other games where cringy one-liners or just bad pronounced lines happen all over the place. That's just part of the charm of the series. So I feel like this criticism held specifically against Ethan is a little unfair. So for those playing the new games, give it a chance, and of course explore the lore, because the lore explains a lot of why he doesn't react. So I'm basically just going to be defending his character today, because I really do like his character. I do like the story that was told, how it was wrapped up, and the Shadows of Rose DLC as well. I think he was done really well. And I think he just needs more respect, because I'm just seeing constant spam in the community. Bring back Leon, bring back this character, this. And don't get me wrong, I do want to see remakes in the future of the older cast. I want to see Code Veronica remade more than anybody. I want that game remade, don't get me wrong. But with the new stories that we have, I think it's fair to at least see some new cast, some new characters. Even with the new characters that we got, like Ethan and Mia, we still saw Chris make a return. So they're not getting rid of the old characters just to have Ethan replace them. That's not it at all. He's just a new protagonist for now, and his story was wrapped up just fine. So I don't see the reason to constantly shit on his character and say that he's boring or average, when that's kind of the whole point. He's not supposed to be an action hero like Chris, who's like 7 foot tall or some shit and can break boulders with his bare hands. And he's not Leon, who's in RPD and an actual trained officer. He's just a regular guy trying to find his wife. And of course, incidents occur. Resident Evil occurs, alright? So to really lay into him just because he's not like that, I feel is a little unfair as well. Keep in mind, imagine like this. You're put into a position where you have to go find someone after 3 years, and you have zero context. Now, of course, this is horror video game logic, so you don't call anybody, you go by yourself. And imagine, if you will, that you get knocked out, and suddenly you're able to do things that you couldn't do before. You get knocked out, and you lose your hand, you lose these limbs, but you don't die. You don't die, you come back, and you're able to put yourself back together, almost literally. How do you react to that? Do you just scream? Do you go out in anger? How do you react to these things all happening one after the other, and also considering the actual lore reason behind all this happening, that being that you can actually regenerate yourself? Not regenerate, but you can put yourself back together. That, I feel like a lot of that would put so much shock on a person that they wouldn't even know how to react per se. Not to say that all of his lines had to be, non-existent or not reacting, but if you put yourself there for a second, you realize that, yeah, he's probably kind of mind-fucked a little bit, just kind of processing everything that's happening at once, and also considering that his mental state probably isn't the best after, first of all, having that boss fight with Mia in RE7. First of all, that's the first thing you have to fight. That's the first person you have to fight, your own wife, who you've been looking for all this time. I imagine he's not necessarily in the best place to react or scream or say anything. And you still do see that before the incident where he actually does, die in RE7. He does perish, and that is the reason why, after that moment, so much ridiculous shit happens that the community still memes on to this day. I would imagine that would probably affect him just a little bit, and he's not like a tough guy, it's not like Leon where all these things can happen, he just becomes colder, tougher, or like Chris, who's been doing this for years, decades at this point, and he's hardened. But Ethan's not like that at all. He does harden up in Village, of course. He does become more tougher, slightly more jaded. Now, of course, he's not necessarily talking to Mia at the beginning of the game because, that Mia got replaced by Romance. It's a whole other set of lore. But the point is, he does become a little more jaded in Resident Evil 8. And I think a lot of people need to replay that game to understand his character more than just calling him boring or basic. Because he does start to kind of fall apart. He's kind of like, can I do this? What is going on? Why does everyone keep dying on me? This is presented to you pretty early on as well, so I don't see how a lot of people have actually missed the fact that his mental state is not only failing him, but he, as a character, is struggling. He's struggling that he's put in these positions. He just wants to have a family for not even 3 years before everything goes to hell, and then he has to make the ultimate sacrifice at the end of Village. When you put all that together, it kind of makes it hard not to at least admire what he's been doing as a character. In fact, I find it almost insulting when people kind of say he doesn't do anything as a character. He does a whole lot aside from taking wounds one after the other. Of course, it's our perspective. It's a first-person perspective for a game, so it makes sense that these things happen. But also, in lore, that we're seeing this from his perspective, you kind of have to understand that he's seeing a lot of stuff that nobody should be able to witness or see. And when he's seeing all this stuff, it kind of breaks him as a person. Yet, despite that, he still keeps moving forward. So, all that yap aside, right? Ethan is not necessarily boring. He's just very complex in the way that they decide to portray how he's reacting. Now, if you don't like the way he says his lines, or if the voice actor didn't do a great job, like I said at the beginning, that's an entirely different thing, and you can fairly criticize that if you want to. Of course, I have my own issues with other characters who don't sound great. Claire's actress sounds a little off at times in RE2, so there are problems to be had with the acting for sure. But I don't think that's a criticism you can use against the character. You have to differentiate the criticism between the actor and the actual character. Because to shit on the character just because a line sounds a little wacky or two, it's a little off. I think it's a little insulting to the character as well. So that's all I'm trying to argue in favor for Ethan, because he really did get a lot of time in the sun. He got RE7 and 8, and even 8 a little bit. He had to share the spotlight with other characters. So I don't want to see his character kind of tarnished like this just because people want to see Leon come back more than anything, or to have Chris have his own game again. I just want some respect for Ethan. Put respect on my boy's name, because he did a whole lot for me. I really liked him as a character, and it's a damn shame we won't be seeing him much longer, or at all at this point, considering Requiem takes place far in the future, at least in our present timeline. So we won't see much of him anymore, and of course his storyline is wrapped up. So it is unfortunate. I just want to make this video though because I really do like his character, and of course Resident Evil is one of my favorite franchises of all time. So I want to talk about this because a lot of people really seem to hate this dude, or just not like him as a protagonist whatsoever. Even going as far as to say he didn't do much for the storyline. I saw one of these posts suggesting that RE7 and 8 don't do anything for the franchise, and to make a statement like that over the main character is ludicrous. At the end of RE6, the franchise is dead. So to say RE7 and 8 didn't do anything for the franchise that's borderline stupidity right there. You would have to be completely ignorant to not realize what RE7, RE8 have done, which is paint us back into this franchise. That's a whole separate issue, but my point is, put respect on Ethan's name. He has done more than enough work, at least for me, to be a certified classic character in the Resident Evil franchise. Even if you don't actually see his face or his facial model, because it's first person, not third person, I still think he did a lot as a character to earn my liking. I do like him a lot. He's not my favorite character, of course, but he's not the worst character, not by a long shot. Absolutely not. I don't think he's at the bottom tier. He absolutely deserves more respect than to be called one of the worst, or boring, or basic. Yes, okay, at the beginning you're introduced, when you don't have any context, sure, at the beginning of 7, yeah, he can seem a little boring at times, or just a basic character, but that's kind of the whole point. He's a husband going to find his wife. That's the whole plot of the game. And it's a lot more complex than that, but that's the whole basics and sentiment of the game. It's just trying to find Mia. So don't disrespect my guy just because he's trying to find his wife, because trust me, I would be trying to do that too. But that said, Thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button and subscribe. I could always use a new addition to the Dark Ops army. And if you want to see more Resident Evil videos, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you liked about this video, whether or not you actually like Ethan as a character or if you think he's boring. Please let me know why specifically in the comments below, because I want to see what people think of this guy. I don't think he's a bad character by any means, as I've been defending this whole video. I really don't think he's a bad character, and I actually think he's a very good one. So hopefully some people agree with me down there, because I do want to see if more people like this character. Maybe we'll see more of him in DLCs, hopefully, or maybe in another spin-off game. Hopefully, we don't know, but that's just my thoughts. Anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. This is Dark Ops, signing off.